How's it going, guys, and welcome again to this channel, and nice to see you guys. Today I have another brand new panel for you guys to take a look at. This is the DNO lighting, which is the DOP180AD light panel. And over here, wait until you see what this thing is. So don't go anywhere because this thing is worth seeing as well. So this review today is going to be something that's going to be really cool for you guys to see. Yeah, I know, this video turned out to be about 50 minutes long. It's because I'm also reviewing not only one product, but three products here. The light itself, the battery, and also the modifier. But this video here is not only about doing a review or making a review of this product here. It's a mix of a tutorial slash workshop. It's, you treat this thing as if it was like a live video, because some of those things, they last about 3 hours and you guys just don't mind sitting on the couch there with a little popcorn and watch the whole thing. So before you want to exit this video, just hear me out, give me a chance to tell you why this video was so long. And I am 100% sure that you can learn a thing or two from me, which is going to be useful for your production, whatever panel that you have, everything about V-mount batteries, what you should, what you shouldn't do to the thing, how not to break this panel here, because there are warnings on the manual that nobody reads the manual anyway. So I will not waste a single second of your time with this video. I promise you it's going to be 50 minutes of information of everything they want to see here. So once again, thank you so much. It was like editing a wedding, but thank you again. And also disclaimer here, they send me these 3 items here for me to check it out. And of course I get to keep the items here, but that doesn't alter the way I review the products. They don't get to see a preview of the video before I upload, before you guys do. So everything that I do here, because if this light is here, this is what happens. When they invite me to review something, I check the specifications, everything the same way as if I were gonna buy the light. So if this light is not to my liking, I will say no thank you for your time. But the fact that this light is here is because I really think it is worth my time and your time, especially me setting up all these lights here, which by the way, every time I finish the review, I pack this whole thing up and break everything down. So it's a lot of work here to do the order test, 1, 2, 3, position these things here. So it's a whole craziness here. So I am very glad to review this light, and I really enjoy it, and I think this video is going to be very useful to you as well about learning these lights here. This light here is designed mainly for key light or anything that requires a soft look, and you can still add more diffusions such as this one here, which DNO Lighting also makes. And I'm going to be talking about this later on because there's a lot of other things to compare this to similar modifiers that they are all over eBay and Amazon. So who is this light for? For professionals that are looking for something simple to set up, yet providing a gorgeous big diffuse light and simplicity on the back here. You just power it on, dial your color temperature or intensity, and leave it alone. So I don't have these lights to compare here side by side, but I have used these lights on set, so I remember very well how they work and what they are. So the light panels Astra, it has a more concentrated beams, about 45 degrees, and they have lenses which allows you to throw the light at a further distance, for example, all the way to light a backdrop over there. And also the Aputure Lightstorm LS1, it's not the same type of lens as the Astra has, but it has the same one of those diodes, right? And these lights can be very punchy in the middle. And this light here does exactly the opposite of what the other two lights do, which is key light focus, at least in my opinion, or my wanting to use this light here. This is what I'm going to be using this light for. The same way there's no such thing as a perfect camera, same exact thing goes here. There's no such thing as a panel that does all-in-one kind of thing here. So that's why you need different lights with different things on the front here, because this light here, for example, let's talk about brightness for a second here. Comparing with the Aputure Lightstorm LS1, if you place the aperture 1 meter from the wall and you measure with your device there, it's going to read about 7,500 lux, that light, because of the way the light is. And this light over here, at the same exact 1 meter of distance from the wall, is going to measure about 4,800 lux. It's because of the great diffusion this thing has built in here, which of course this thing is in the middle of the light or the LEDs in the back here, which cuts out light intensity. So to make the LS1, the aperture, as pleasant and diffuse like this for key lights, you're gonna have to place some decent amount of diffusion in front of the light, which of course, guess what's gonna happen? The lux is gonna drop from 7,500, depending what you install in front of the light, can be even all the way down to 4,000. depending what it is. Each light does different things. You want a punchy, bright kind of thing for like a background or something to shine somewhere, that will be the LS1 or the Astra, for example. If you want a soft, big, round light here, that will be this panel right here. I don't like lights that have a ballast, but Aputure, they have done an awesome job, especially on the latest ones there, that requires few cables and also ingenious ways to mount the ballast on the C-stand or whatever you got. But I still don't like ballast because it's one thing less to do in a production setup time. This light over here, there's no ballast. The LS1 Aputure, you have several cables to connect. For example, the ballast is going to be on the floor, which also creates a harm on set. The less people that can trip on my equipment, so I don't like ballast at all. And this light here, this is one of my favorite things about this panel because, again, to connect to the wall outlet is just like a one cable little thing. And if you want to go V-mount, you simply slap a V-mount battery in the back here. While the Aputure LS1, you still need the ballast and a single cable at least to connect the things to back on the panel. So there are two versions of this light here, the old Mark 1 and of course I have the second generation, which is the Mark 2. So I'm going to show you guys the back of the panel here. So to connect the light, this is what I love about this light. It's a simple power cable which has a very nice and robust cable with a twist and lock kind of thing, which I really like. And then you power the light on and put this thing in front of a CEO with a beautiful soft light and start filming. It's that simple. And this light here, color temperature wise, you can switch from 3200 degrees Kelvin all the way to 6200 degrees Kelvin. My light panel here is actually going all the way up to 6200 degrees Kelvin. I'm not sure if this is what's supposed to be because I've seen other reviewers reviewing this light, or if this is a new software or firmware they put in here. Maybe they changed the hardware, whatever that is. So mine is going all the way up to 6200 degrees Kelvin. These controls here, they can be a little bit temperamental, so you have to kind of really dial very slowly if you want it to change. For example, on the color temperature, you gotta dial very slowly in 100 degree Kelvin increments. So if you move the knob very slow, you can actually clearly see what's going on here, or very fast all the way down very fast as well. So you don't necessarily need to be looking at these numbers here. This knob here, you can see there's a 3200 here, 45 here, and 5600 right here. This is the thing again that I'm a little bit confused because it says here 5600, but mine is going all the way up to 6200 degrees Kelvin. I don't know what's up with that, but my panel is doing that. But anyway, so if you want about 4500 degrees Kelvin, just aim the little dot on this black knob here to the 45, and there you go. Pretty close. Then you just adjust one little 100 degree Kelvin. You want to go all the way to 3200, that's easy because that's all the way to the hard left. And to the 5600 degrees Kelvin, you just rotate all the way up. In my case, I have to back it up a little bit here to kind of a 5600 degrees Kelvin. So I received these two main items here. The first thing that you're gonna notice when you receive your items, when you buy something from this company here, is the box, because everything was a double box and it was separated. So the panel came in one box and it comes with the case. And this battery here also came in its own separate cardboard box, and it has a case as well. So I was very impressed with everything. And what you get when you buy this panel here, it comes with the panel with the barn doors pre-attached. There's no assembly to do. Also a 16-foot long, very robust power cord and a remote control. And this light also has no ballast. All you have to do is plug it on the wall and plug it back here, turn it on, ready to fire. And this battery here also comes with the same exact type of case that this light came in. It comes with the battery, it comes with the DC 4-pin XLR cable, and it's fairly long. And to keep things closed, when you have the battery close here, this is why it's coiled, so you don't have all that cable dangling around. It also comes with the charger, of course. And it comes with this little mesh here that you can actually attach to anything, a C-stand or regular stand or anything, or you can just leave it on the floor or anywhere they want to hang this with. And it also comes with this 4-pin XLR cable here featuring 3 D-taps to power 3 other devices through D-tap. And the barn doors here are made of aluminum, as it is expected with a professional panel. And as you set your barn door position here, is going to stay unless you open and close this 100,000 times, and then all you gotta do is to retighten those screws here with a standard Phillips screwdriver, and it goes back to the same rigidity as once you open the box, right? So, and the panel here, as you can see, is a permanently attached diffusion panel here, non-removable. And the purpose of this light here is to be focused in key light, or if you need a bigger light source. So what I like about this panel here is the ability to take it out of the box or the case there, plug it in the wall, and pointing at my subject and start filming. This is requiring no extra diffuser, even though they also make a diffuser for this here, which we're going to be talking about that in a moment. So you have a double extra diffusion here. So it's the same thing as using a big old softbox with a COB chip with the ballast mount and everything, but those lights, I don't want to be setting up you know, the softbox and attaching things. So this light here for fast applications, this is ideal because I know it's going to provide me a beautiful light. Most LED panels that are out there, they always will require some extra diffusion, and this one here, again, straight out of the box, good to go, diffuse light, beautiful. So other panels, they are more designed to throw more light at a farther distance, and this one here is my favorite because it provides me that ready to go diffusion. Is a bigger light. This is not a 1x1 panel. This is a bigger panel. It has 16 inches across here by 12, so it's in between a 1x1 and a 2x1 panel. So the bigger the light source and the close proximity it is placed, the softer the light is going to become, right? Having this one here for key lights, if you don't want to set up, you know, COB chip lights and with the ballast mount and softbox, and having the other type of LED panels which has lenses on it. So having all these lights combined on your set, you can have this one here as a main key light, while the other ones, just like this light here is shining that strong green in the background, that light is at least 25 feet away. And you still have plenty of power for this big light that I have here, and also to compete with this panel exposure wise. That green shows just perfect there. So now one thing I don't like about this light, and I'm not the first one that's complaining about this on YouTube, is the yoke, the very thin aluminum that this is made, because this is not a heavy panel, but this whole thing is made of metal. Okay, it's about 90% metal, just a couple of things plastic here, but still has some significant weight, and the yoke here is a rather thin aluminum kind of thing. This light is not going to go anywhere. It will not fall on the ground under any circumstances as long as we have this thing tightened here, the yoke receiver, right? So what I don't like is this little play here, and also the fact that the yoke receiver here, it does not allow you to have the other holes to mount the light this way, which allows you to, for example, when you install a light modifier like this, you cannot tilt the light beyond, like, I don't know, 8 degrees this way, because the barn doors, even if you fold them like this, they're gonna start to hit the yoke at this position, you know. So I wish I could actually turn this stand here. As you can see, it has the ability, if I want to mount the light the other way, because you can actually just put the receiver here. But what happens is I cannot place the light this way and do this. You can't do that because I can see the yoke is not thick enough to support that much stress. With that said, unless they change the yoke here, you cannot tilt this light. And again, this stand has the capability to put this light in complete horizontal position, but I tried. I don't feel comfortable. I can see it. This is like, oh my god, you know, this is not a good thing. So again, this is your tilt right here. That's pretty much it. So this needs to be changed. So if they replace the yoke here, I'm not sure how much that's gonna increase in the price, or if they will be cool enough to not increase the price. I don't know, it's up to them what it costs to them to make these lights, right? So the way it is, you cannot tilt the light. Now the yoke receiver here, as you can see, there's 2 screws here. So if you actually try to mount the light, for example, this way, right? You drop it in here, and you do this at the same time here, you're gonna see that's gonna be even more play here. So most receivers, they only have 1 screw, right? So what I would suggest you to do here to avoid excessive play with this light, besides the yoke doing this, right? Just screw 1 single screw here until it stops, which this has pushed the whole thing against the whole baby pin receiver here, and then you can actually finally tighten this later. Don't do it at the same time, because if you do just one, the whole thing has already made contact with the whole stud, right? You can also remove this screw here, but I actually also like to keep it here. You can tighten a little bit, but you know, just so you know. Now I have made a couple modifications here, nothing that requires opening the light, nothing that voids the warranty in any way, shape or form. It's all external, and it's cosmetic little things here. So the only thing that I did here cosmetically is to add a piece of nylon washer here, which helps prevent wear and tear when you loosen this up here. So this rubs less in here, because if you raise it, you can see there's a little bit of wear and tear going on here. So to avoid that, I just added this nylon washer, and this also feels a lot smoother. Another thing that I did here with the barn doors is a slight modification on top here, because if you want to add a diffuser or anything in front of this panel here, it's going to be required that you remove the barn doors, correct? So the way this comes with is this regular M3 screws. I can tell by just looking at it because I'm a metric guy. So this screws here, you're going to have to use a screwdriver all the time, which is going to be a pain in the ass, right? So look what I got here. I ordered this from Amazon. This is an M3 16mm long screw, which is exactly the length of that screw. And this is a screw right here. So to remove the barn door now, see this here? All I have to do is toollessly unscrewing this stuff here. And then when I want to put the barn door back, just screw back in like this. 5 seconds, good to go. I'm a genius. Another thing to keep in mind, depending on how you tilt these panels here, as you move it to the front, this thing's gonna self-tighten themselves to the point that's gonna be super tight. So make sure you unwind enough here so this doesn't happen. So it's always gonna be a smooth kind of thing, because this can actually over-tighten pretty tight. And to uninstall this barn doors here, to remove the barn door, first of all, you gotta make sure you be careful with this cable in the back here. Just make sure you guide it like this here, and then you just make sure you tighten both of these knobs here, this one and this one here. Once that's done, you just unscrew this in this position here, so the barn doors, you know, gravity helping you, right? It stays in place. So you remove the screw number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 with the screwdriver, and then when you have your awesome toolless screws here, all you have to do is to put them back in the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're also gonna notice when you have all 4 screws out of here, this barn door is actually very easy to take it out, and these tabs here, you can easily place it back together. Now, in the event that you don't want to put the barn doors back, in my case, I don't think I'm gonna actually reinstall the barn doors. You can actually put this panel back in the case with the barn door attached here without any screws. And this barn door is not going to go anywhere, because these tabs here, they lock pretty good even without the screws. But you don't want under any circumstances to attempt to run this barn doors here in this position without the screws, because the barn door will fall. I'm just saying, for storage, this can be put back in the box, and this is not going to be slide to the sides, you know, plus the pressure of the box, you know, it has a thick foam inside there. Anyway, you can if you want. So there's no need to over tighten the screws, just using common sense. So all you have to do when you screw them back here, either this screw or the other regular screw, just don't over tighten. Once that stops, just leave it alone, because this is just a barn door. The barn doors, they're great, but every single panel, I don't care if it is an Aries Sky panel, they put a barn door in there. The barn doors on the slides here, because they're not Fresnel, there's not much you can do about lighting control. You can like reduce a little bit of the light spill on the ceiling and everything, but you can't have that precise thing unless this barn door was like, you know, 20 inches this wide, and then you have that huge thing like doing this, right? But other way, you can't just have a total amount of control with these barn doors. They do a good job, but don't expect any miracles with this type of barn doors here. One thing that I really enjoyed on the back panel of the slide here, because I've never seen anything like this before, usually the V-mount slot, the plate that they put in here, usually they screw on the back of the panel like a plate, right? Which protrudes about, I don't know, a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch out. This one here sit like flush with the light, is actually built in. It's not an accessory, an additional plate that they put in here. So when you actually put a V-mount battery twice as thick as this one here, what's going to happen is it's going to make the light slightly heavier. So when you actually loosen this thing here, the light will tend to slam down more, or up or down. So having that 1/4 inch recessed thing, you know, gravity wise, it's not going to be a whole lot of tilting as if this light, if the V-mount battery was mounted like all the way back here. So that actually makes a difference, and also makes the light more clean and elegant. So there you go, a panel like this, 180 watts of power, and you probably noticed there's no fan in here. So there's no fan to bug your recordings, even if you are in a room like this here, because you can hear everything here. A needle falls on the carpet here, you can hear. So this panel here, in exchange of the fan, they made this massive heat sink in the back here. Some of these blades, they exceed almost 2 inches, and I was doing a time-lapse with this thing here, a charge-discharge kind of time-lapse kind of thing, for 4.5 hours. And the hottest this panel got in the back here using a laser thermometer was like, 100 degrees, 104, something like that, 108. Your body is 98 degrees. If you have a fever, even hotter than that. So it's pretty much this light at 100%, at 180 watts, running all this time here. There's technically no heat on the back here, because 100 degrees, that's pretty much yourself. So there's nothing hot here and no fan. I think that's crazy. So speaking of heat, the LED's number one enemy is actually heat. So when you have your aperture 300 to 600, every time you place a modifier, especially a Fresnel thing, which pretty much almost seals the whole COB chip there, especially when you run this thing at 100% with a light that powerful, the amount of heat that develops inside that enclosure is ridiculous, which is going to be suffocating the LED. I never did this with my 300 watt lights, or as a matter of fact any other light. I run these lights probably at 40% or maybe 25%, even a 300 watt light, because I don't want to blast my LEDs. And the same exact thing that's happening here with the 100% or any panel. I don't care if it is a R-Sky panel or if it is a cheap little $150 panel that you buy on Amazon. I try to never run my lights at 100% because this is going to actually reduce the life expectancy of the LEDs. So 80% and down. This battery here, whether they're made of lithium ion or lithium polymer cells, never let the battery run to the last bit of juice here, because it's always ideal to keep at least 20% of juice here to recharge the battery and to keep the battery in tip-top performance, because every single time you let your iPhone die to 1% and then your phone shuts down or your camera shuts down or this battery here dies on a light, every time you do that, it's going to hurt the battery components inside, the cells or whatever you want to call it. So every time that you let that happen, you're going to be damaging your battery slowly. Even with this battery here, the same rule applies, no exception. Now, if you are interested in knowing what's the storage rate to store your V-mount batteries on the shelf for, 3 or 5 months or whatever, you probably notice that every battery, including these things here, they receive their half charge, is because this is what they enjoy staying on the shelf. I wish they made a charger that would stop at 50%, because who has time to kind of sit there and watch until you reach 50% and then you unplug, right? That's not happening. So my batteries, unfortunately, they're all charged to 100% and then they get stored away, which is also better than having the battery completely depleted, and then again, it's going to cause harm to the battery. Ideal storage time charge is 50%. And when you use your batteries on the gig, make sure you charge them in full the night before, so they are in tip-top charging condition, so they are really 100% ready to go. Now, the next thing that I'm going to say here regarding current with the AC and DC, I cannot stress enough how important it is if you don't want to break this panel on the very first day they receive when you try to operate this light with AC and DC. And a lot of other panels they already own, they have the same warning, because depending on the type of switch it has on the back here, this can actually destroy your light in one single attempt. So this particular switch here is almost called, it's not really a moment switch. Moment switch is the switch that you just tap and it turns on and turns off. This is actually a mechanical switch, but it does not have the AC/off/DC. This is a on-off only switch. And to be honest here, how many of you guys read the damn manual? None of you guys do, probably 2%. So this particular manual here, there's no excuse not to read it, because the back of the thing is just a plain white paper, and this is the whole manual here. It takes you, 25, 35 seconds to read. So the manual says here, don't mix AC and DC connections at the same time, and I'm gonna show you why with a multimeter here. Always power the lights off first. Remove the cable. So the light is completely off. So when you have your AC cable here, you're still running a little bit of current on the DC side, because again, this is not a AC DC switch, right? So let's put the battery, the V-mount battery here. I'm gonna show you guys something. The light is not even on yet. There's already current flowing here, the full 16 point some volts that this battery has, right? So with the multimeter here and with the probes negative and positive, and you're running about 16.2 volts of current here. So what happens if you try to plug in the V-mount battery plus a DC cable here with this battery here? You follow what I'm saying, right? You're gonna have 16 volts feeding back to this thing here and also back and forth, which is not a good scenario. So let's measure the voltage again here. If you don't know what you're doing with electricity, okay, don't attempt what I'm doing here, because if you short these plugs here, your light is gone as well. Do not attempt this if you don't know what you're doing, please. So here the terminals here, the negative and positive, you're running about 16 volts. Now the interesting thing about the thing that I told you before about the stress on the batteries, right? Let's crank this up to 100%. Now watch the voltage here, how it's dropping. Now I have only 14.6 volts. And you also notice that you can only run 81% or 80% and below, never 100% when you are on DC mode on this particular panel here. So let's turn down the intensity of the light all the way to, I don't know, 15%. As you can see, it's reading 15.73 volts. Let me crank it up to a higher gain here. As you can see, the voltage is dropping, right? So this is why you have that missing fourth bar on the V-mount battery, because of the stress they put on the battery. So right now here I'm with 4 bars. As soon as you up the intensity, it's gonna disappear 1 bar here. It's not going to, because the battery is fully charged, but you will eventually. But if that happens, when you reduce the intensity of the light, the 4th bar is going to reappear again, unless the battery is discharging to a state that it is truly 3 bars left. Now right now we're going to be doing the opposite. We're going to be probing the V-mount battery terminals here, which is exactly the same current that was flowing on this jack here when the V-mount battery was plugged in. Since we have this battery feeding the DC jack here, as you can see, the same dangerous voltage can run here. And hopefully I'm not blocking the camera there. So it's reading 15.44 volts of current. So this is what happens when you have the V-mount here plus the AC or DC, because you are actually combining AC and DC and the V-mount and this battery here. So do not do this under any circumstances. It's either AC or the V-mount alone or the external DC in source alone. Never attempt to do either one of those 3 things at the same time. AC stands for alternate current, DC stands for direct current. So especially DC can be very dangerous to cause fires and everything, because it's a very dangerous voltage to deal with. So every time you're not using your lighting equipment, doesn't matter if it is this panel or any other panel, it's always a good idea to unplug everything from the outlet instead of leaving, if you have a tube created channel little room there, even in that situation there, when you're not doing your reviews, always unplug everything or remove your V-mount batteries out of there if you're not using this thing for, like, many days or many weeks or whatever. It's always a good practice to do that. And over here is the same exact voltage that you can measure inside the light. It's reading 16 point some volts here. So on a D-tap is the same exact way. When you actually open the D-tap here, you're gonna notice that is the same exact voltage, the same 16 point some volts. So it's the same thing from the D-tap to the regular V-mount terminals here. Now to go back to the AC, shut off the light, remove the V-mount battery or the actual DC cable here. So the light is like bare bone, nothing connected. And then you actually connect back your AC cable and twist it and turn the light back on, good to go. Alright, next let's talk about the remote control that this light comes with here. It's nothing that special to look at, but it has some cool features, like you can actually adjust your color temperature, like 3200, 4500, 5600, and then back to 3200. And I'm gonna go back to 5600 here. And also you can actually control the color by 100 Kelvin increments, or you can also dim it down, right? Or you can press and hold. There you go. Now, people were complaining that the actual sensor of this light is placed in the back, which can cause an inconvenience. Now, I'm actually going to be turning it off, not only from the back, but I'm going to be actually doing this from the front. Check this out. There you go, right? Now, I'm going to be actually turning on and off this light from the front when the sensor is in the back. As long as you have a wall or a screen like that, it will work. Check this out. There you go. So I was at a distance of at least 18-20 feet away from this thing, even though the sensor is in the back here, so you actually can manage to make this light work with the remote control, even though the sensor is in the back here. Now, as you can see on the other camera that you just saw me over there, Has a ton of acoustic material in there. Unfortunately, that's not going to play well over here because when it's bouncing off those things, the infrared does not come back to the light. But over there, no problem. So you can actually turn off the light from here, even from here. Let me see. Yes, even from here. I'm pointing at the wall there. There you go. And from here, of course. And again from over there. If I may suggest, they should put a copy of the thing here internally. It's an extension of the infrared. So either they put another sensor here, or they can internally make another one with a wire that goes over there. So problem solved. But for right now, you either aim this at a wall, or if you have a ton of blankets and stuff in the front there, you know, or this thing here is not going to work. And it has no app. By the way, I actually hate apps. Most light panels that I have, they all have the app, but I never use that thing because I have my assistants or myself to come here and turn it up or down the intensity, the color temperature, no problem at all. With the app, I find it a little bit cumbersome because either most of them is like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Depending on the distance or interference, the app can crash or the signal is not strong enough. And infrared remote is okay. I mean, my favorite type of remote control, if they would make this on a third Mark III of this light here, it would be a radio signal. That is the best thing ever since the bread and butter. So with this remote here is a regular infrared, but I still prefer the remote than the app. Besides that, imagine if you have the iPhone Pro Max and then your phone accidentally falls on a concrete on some setting that you're doing there. And then if you wasn't using the app, maybe you would have saved your iPhone from that terrible day that the iPhone actually hit the concrete because you were fumbling with the app with this light here. I don't know. So I don't like the app, and if they did have the app, I don't care about it. But most of you guys would probably care about it. I think they probably even do the app thing in the future, but that's going to require a different type of hardware as well here. So another thing that I love about this light here, especially for being a professional panelist, is something that definitely should be present, and it is. For example, when you're changing color temperature in this particular light here, that it is a bicolor light, a lot of panels that I see is going to be twice as bright, which is going to cause you to change either the iris, the shutter, or the ISO. So in this particular panel here, when you have all your cameras calibrated to the whatever exposure that you need, especially if you have all the lights on the set, you don't want to change, you don't want this light here to actually mess up the intensity of the other lights that you so carefully set it up. So even if it is at a higher percentage here, if you need suddenly to turn it to 3200 degrees Kelvin, it's going to be the same exposure as, in my case here, 6200 degrees Kelvin or 5600 or 4700. It doesn't matter. The exposure, the brightness will not change in this panel, which is awesome. Now let's talk about this diffuser here that they also sent this to me here. I really like this because this brand here, I mean, I don't have anything against them, of course. I actually bought this, right? But comparing this to this here, but as you can see, this thing here is a very little shallow, little thin kind of diffusion, because I don't think this provides hardly any diffusion because I can still see all the LEDs here, and this whole material here is very thin. Okay, so it's just all over Amazon, and it looks like everybody's buying this thing here. But this one here that they make here, when you actually set it up, let me collapse this down here, I'm going to show you guys here. This particular thing here, the first impression that I had when you actually mount this thing, you don't even need to kind of help the thing like this here. It automatically does this. Look, boom, then boom. Look at this. This one here doesn't happen. See, like you have to kind of help it. See, it doesn't happen that way. You have to help it a little bit until it gets straight. You see what I'm saying? This one here, it's like that. Boom, done. Beautiful. Now, so it's a lot thicker, the diffusion here. And also the detail here on the back here, as you can see, it has something here to minimize any possible light spill. And it also comes with this other little curtain here, with a reflective material. And also the Velcro here. So when you actually put this diffuser in front of this light here, first all you gotta do is to make sure this goes around the frame here, a little bit behind, and only the Velcro attaches to the back of the heatsink. So if you take your time for the first time, the second time you set this up here, you're gonna take like a very few seconds to set this whole thing up. So with this little thin diffusion here, this is what the light looks like inside here. You see there's like a cross thing going on there. There's not a whole lot of diffusion. And with this one here, it's slightly thicker. And then this is how the light looks like inside. See, like this type of diffusion here. Well, this one here gives you this type of diffusion. So as you can clearly see, the other fabric here is a lot deeper. And this fabric here, they have a little bit of that little fabric that has a bunch of little micro squares here, which is the same thing that you find on your big modifiers. While this one here, it almost looks like a little shower curtain thing, even thinner than that. You can see how transparent that thing is. Look at this. You know what I'm talking about? You can see the whole thing inside there, the little square thing there. Shining on this one here, that doesn't happen. Very happy with this panel here, but I was super excited to tell you guys about this thing here. This is a 900 watt lithium polymer battery. Speaking of lithium polymer, there's no leakage to happen here. Lithium polymer is the same battery that's on your iPhone, which also, if that battery was a regular lithium ion, your phone battery of the same capacity would be as thick as this. Lithium polymer allows the battery to be this little skinny thing here. So I've never seen this before on a cinema industry kind of use, because I think they are the first or the only ones in the market that currently make a lithium polymer battery, especially on this beast of a monster here. This is absolutely insane, and also very simple and elegant. All you have to do is to plug in the jacks here to feed your stuff, and it has this meters here, and that's pretty much it. And on the back here, there's nothing other than the specifications, and this provides you two outputs of 12 amps each, or 15 volts each. So this is equivalent to several V-mount batteries at once, because I mean, this is heavy, about 6 kilograms, 13.22 pounds. It's not that heavy, but it's a hell of a battery. Now this comes with this big charger here, which rates as the output of 17 volts, 7.5 amps. And if you want to buy a second one, which is an additional purchase, you can actually charge this here and there at the same time, but it's gonna take about half of the time. So this takes a full 8 hours to charge, and with two chargers plugged in here simultaneously, it's gonna reduce the time to 4 hours. And I'm not sure how much the chargers are, this little bricks here, but I don't think they would cost a whole lot. But if that's what you want, if you want in a hurry to charge this battery, you can actually reduce the time in half, as long as you respect the necessary voltage here, so you don't damage your battery. I would highly recommend that you buy their brick, because you know this is going to be the right current to charge this battery here. This slides very easily on the table, so I actually put a little, one of those little adhesive little feet here. So I put 4 here and another 4 right here, in case I want to sit this thing on a glass, just so it doesn't scratch anything. And it's always good to add a couple of, you know, I'm very picky with my things, and it was a nice little modification that I did there. I would recommend you to do the same thing. So a lithium polymer battery of this magnitude here, don't expect anywhere near a cheap price tag, because this is not a cheap thing to get. But performance wise, if you want a monster battery like this here, it's gonna power your light like almost forever. I was checking the website to see how much this thing costs now. It was a much different price than it was before. Maybe they're running a sale. I don't know how long that's gonna be for, or if they decide to do a little bit less, so I don't know, to sell more of these things here, because this is an expensive product, you know. So another thing that if you want to buy the light panels and these batteries from me, is a special code called ARTVideo10, which is case sensitive. It has capital A and then capital V. Make sure you copy and paste that right. It gives you an additional 10%. I don't know how long that's gonna last, but right now the promotion is on and active. So if you care to support my channel with this, I would highly appreciate it. You know, I guess things getting a little fancy here on my channel. I got coupon codes and everything. Check me out. So when you buy a battery like this here, regarding batteries, what is the first thing they want to know? How long this thing will take to charge, and also how well does it perform. So as a matter of fact, I made a time lapse with both things. Discharge this battery on this slide here to see how long it will last, and I could easily use this panel for about 4.5 hours with a single charge this battery here. But especially something of this price here, of course they have very intelligent circuitry here that prevents overheating, overcharging, over discharging, all that stuff. But again, please don't let the thing run out of juice in a way that the light actually quits like this, and then you know you have completely exhausted the battery. Try not to do this. That's including your camera, because if your camera dies, it tells you that the battery really died, and then it kind of hurts the cells. So it's never a good idea. So I've been doing this for a long time. This battery is here to store it away. Keep it at 50%. Before your gig, make sure you charge it to 100% just hours before, or maximum the night before. So when you put this thing on the light here, it is 100%, 100%. The cool thing about my videos is because I show things that most YouTubers, they don't even care or even remember to even show you guys, because the last thing that I want to do here is to show you guys the same exact thing that everybody's talking about, this light, and the other light over here. So I actually made a test utilizing this kilowatt device here, which is very important to know, for example, that when you are on batteries, either running a V-mount battery or this monster battery here, which I highly recommend that you get it. So if you're shooting a CEO here with your camera, which you're probably going to be shooting at f1.12, right? Because that's what people love about this this super shallow depth of field, and most cameras, they are native ISO 800, 850. So it's going to require probably 11% of this light here at 3-4 feet away. It's going to be actually too much at this aperture, because I'm shooting at f4, and this is what I get here with the light at 11%. So if you're shooting at f1.2, you are at least 3.5 stops brighter than this. So with that said, it doesn't mean that when you power this light using a V-mount battery, you're going to be actually cranking up the light to 100%, because most cases you're probably going to be about, I don't know, 15, 18, 24%, something like that. So with this thing here, I'm going to show you guys the actual power consumption, which is going to tell you, okay, I can run this light for this many hours at this particular power settings, which I think is pretty useful. Now in this scenario here, let's calculate with this panel here how many hours you guys can run with the DC option here, whether you are connecting a V-mount battery on the back or a monster battery like this here. This whole paraphernalia setup here almost reminds me of that guy from the Back to the Future, that crazy scientist there, you know, but it is what it is. Keep in mind that you guys can only run this light on DC power at a maximum brightness of 80%, whether it is connecting a V-mount battery here or a monster battery like this here. So with the help of a kilowatt meter here, roughly at 80%, this is actually drawing 122 watts out of this light. And this V-mount battery here, I can connect this right now again because I have AC running. You cannot run DC and AC at the same time. Don't forget that. 95 watt-hour battery, as it's showing here. So right now this is actually drawing 122. We're asking for a 122 watts. So actually 95 divided by 122 is going to be running this light with this battery at 0.7 hours, which is about, I don't know, 45 minutes or something like that, with the light cranked up at 100%. And with this battery here, 900 divided by 122, you can actually run 7.3 hours with this battery at the light all the way up to 100%. With a 200 watt-hour V-mount battery, so 200 divided by 122, you can run 1.6 hours with the 200 watt V-mount battery. Now I'm gonna show you guys here this whole thing from top to bottom. With the light off is actually drawing 0 watts. Turning on the light on standby mode at 0%. Just the little hardware and this little display here is actually drawing 2.2 watts, which means if you have this thing connected there for a couple of days, expect this whole thing to be drawn completely dead, because there's a little bit of a power consumption here. Now let's see what happens here with the light at the very minimum, which is 11%, at least on my light, at 5600 degrees Kelvin. Is actually drawing 12.9 watts, 13 watts. And then let's crank it up to, actually before I do that, let's do 3200. It's about almost the same, 12.8. Let's go all the way up to 6200. Pretty much the same. Let's go back to 5600 degrees Kelvin here. Now let's crank it up to 50%. And it's drawing 71 watts, 72 watts. Now let's do the 3200. Same thing. And all the way up to 6200, 72 watts. So now it's at 100%. It's actually drawing 160 watts. And now let's go back to the 3200. 164, pretty much almost the same thing. All the way up to 6200 degrees Kelvin, 164, which tells you that whatever brightness settings you are here, regardless of the color temperature, the beautiful thing about it is because this the intensity of the light is not going to change whether you are at 3200 all the way to the 5600. Regardless, the little jump in color temperature here is actually the same exact exposure, which is perfect. According to my calculations, this light running at 80%, yes, for about 122-ish watts. So according to my calculations, again, this light's supposed to run about 7.3 hours. So I'm not sure about these gauges here, if they are meant for entertaining purposes or something, or for anything accurate, because I've seen similar issues with other high-end and expensive batteries as well. So it's up to the manufacturer what kind of hardware they put in here, because sometimes one LED, it takes a long time to deplete to the third one down here, or it's the opposite way around. It's gonna go really quick here, and then the last one takes a while to go out. So, and with that said, I'm not sure if I still have about 25% of juice here, but I'm not going to risk running this battery completely dead because I don't like doing this to my batteries. But still, I could run this light for over 4.5 hours, which is plenty of time to do whatever it is that you're doing, either a wedding or interview or a corporate video. So with a single battery to last this long with the light cranked up at 100% is still pretty impressive. But I still need to run more tests here. Maybe one day I'm going to get the courage to discharge this battery completely until the light kind of quits, and then I will know exactly how long that's gonna be left to either charge or discharge the battery, because I'm getting a charge on this thing for about 4.5 hours when it's supposed to take 8, right? Unless you put 2 charges here, that's when it drops down to 4 hours. So to me right now is a mystery, but still the runtime that I'm getting with this battery as of right now, the way it is, I think is still pretty impressive and definitely worth getting a battery like this here. Now let's talk about price here a little further. Even if you're on a budget, you decide to buy the cheapest light, or the cheapest recorder, the cheapest camera on the market, you will need a cable here, a light there, and a microphone here, a flag over here. So in the end of the day, everything is still going to be expensive, because you like it or not, photography and video, it is expensive, it was expensive, and it will be expensive until the end of times. But speaking of technology today, is awesome to live in this era that we can actually afford a lot more equipment than we could possibly afford before. So investing in good equipment, if you think the same way I think, if I can afford something, I'll wait a little bit, save a couple bucks here until I get the equipment that I like, rather than you buy like a lighting that's cheaper than this here, or a recorder or a camera, a lens or whatever. Man, I wish I could buy the other one. So you wait until you can afford. So you buy once and you cry once, instead of buying a lot of other cheap things that's not going to do what you want for your production. It's not bright enough, or the colors are crazy, not nothing accurate, or the recorder is not good, stuff like that. So it's I always believe that buying the best equipment that you can buy, it's going to be useful to you and last a long time, rather than buying something cheap that's not going to be pleasing you at the end of the day of your production. So that's the end of my review, and I hope you enjoyed the content that you saw here. I try my very best to provide you the best information that I can possibly give you guys. And if you care to give me a thumbs up, that tells me that I'm doing a good job. And if lighting is your thing, please consider subscribing to my channel for more contents like this. And also, please drop down the comments, the comments on the comment section. I'll reply to everything that I see there, and I try to do this as fast as possible. Whatever it is that you comment there, be sure to receive a reply from me. This is another way to say thank you for watching my videos, and I see you next time.